Welcome, everyone, to the Special Education Inner Circle podcast. I'm your host, Catherine Witcher, and my DMs are full in this back to school season. So I just wanted to talk today about a big subject that is happening inside of the private conversations in my inbox, in my DMs, and it all has to do with inclusion. And I have several parents and several teachers that are very concerned because the general education teacher or the general education teams are not involved yet, and school has either started or is going to be starting really soon. And, I know what the conversation is going to be when it starts with, can you please tell me when inclusion is supposed to start? And then the details continue about what's happening, when is school starting, this is who they've heard from, this is who they haven't heard from, or I have teachers who are contacting me saying, I'm so frustrated, I'm being told that, inclusion will start later after everybody gets into a routine. And that's not okay. Inclusion starts day one. In fact, I'm just going to read to you what I put on Instagram this week as part of the conversation, and then we'll pick it up from there. So special education inclusion starts day one. Dear teachers, if a child is going to be in your class, even for a snippet of the day, they are your responsibility from day one. Inclusion isn't something we ease into eventually. It's not a luxury we afford only when we've got our bearings. When we delay inclusion, we're telling a child with an IEP, hold on, we're not ready for you yet. But here's the truth. They're not a disruption to be managed. They're a vital part of your classroom community. See, this is not something where we go to school and a special education teacher has their caseload and they're in charge of everybody all the time until it's time to pass them on once everybody else has gotten into their routine. That's not what inclusion is. In fact, that's setting up separation from day one, where children with IEPs go over here, children in general education are over here, and it's not fair that we are waiting until everybody feels like, okay, now we can handle it. Now we can handle all the situations. Now we can do this. Because you know what's happened in those first few days of school? All the instructions were repeated like 100 times. Okay? Everybody was learning the classroom rules. Everybody was learning the classroom expectations. Everybody was learning everybody's name. And the child who has an IEP was left out of that until all of that is done. And now we can start inclusion minutes. No, because that does make more of a disruption. I'm not saying that that's not a disruption. That is a disruption, but you created that disruption by not allowing the child to be part of the school community, that classroom community from day one. When a child goes into a district, they are not a specific teacher's responsibility. They are the district's responsibility. The district is in charge of IDEA law. The district is in charge of that IEP, and the district hired multiple teachers to provide an education. And this is not a slam on gen ed teachers. This is a culture thing in the building. This is a leadership thing that needs to change, because to all the general education teachers are like, but that's just how it's done, or this is how it has been, or you know what? I'm not prepared to have all of the children in my classroom because I don't have the supports. Again, that's a leadership thing. That's not something that is your fault, but it is a leadership problem that you don't have all the tools, support, and training in your classroom day one, the same you did for all of the other children that are on your classroom roster. Because again, even if that child's going to be in your classroom for 20 minutes, they are your child. They are your child. You need to feel responsibility for it. And maybe you do. Maybe you do, but you didn't know, or you weren't prepared, or nobody helped you become prepared. So what's the solution? You might be nodding your head of like, yeah, Catherine, I'm a gen ed teacher. You know what? And I'm guilty. I'm guilty of not bringing all of the children in at the same time because I don't have all the supplies that I need. I don't have the supports. I don't have the people. I don't know how to read the IEP. I didn't even know they had an IEP. I didn't know they were coming into my classroom. That happens too. There are a lot of times that general education teachers do not know that a child is going to be in their class. General education teachers were an afterthought. They were an afterthought. So there's a lot of things that can be happening in this conversation. So what's the answer? The answer is that we need to be addressing this within the IEP meeting last spring. Bummer, it's already fall, right? We're already here. Like, we missed that conversation. Okay, so now what do we do now? We start the conversation today. Now, right now, I'm having this conversation with you on a Friday afternoon. I'm not telling you to go, set off all of the fire alarms on a Friday afternoon, okay? But I am telling you to get your communication ready, to have really deep conversations about inclusion. What does it look like? And when I say you're like, who? Like the parents, the teachers, the therapists, the admins? Yes, all of you. Because I don't know who you are on your IEP team right now, but I do know that every program that I create for Master IEP Coach mentorship programs, every episode here on the Special Education Inner Circle podcast, it's for parents, teachers, admins, and therapists. Because if you're expected to work together, you need to learn together, you need to learn from each other, and you need to communicate with each other. Which means every time I say, you know what, go have this conversation, that's for everybody. So I don't know who you are on your IEP team. I don't know what your role is, but you need to start this conversation because it's not okay to wait. It's not okay to wait. We always say inclusion is an experience, not a place. That's a big thing. I mean, I've had it up on big screens. I'm traveling the country, speaking on stages, and I put this up all the time. Inclusion is an experience, not a place. We don't go to inclusion. We experience inclusion. We don't go to a place and then get excluded the rest of the time. Inclusion can actually happen in a building the entire day, even if a child is receiving direct instruction in a special education classroom for some or even majority of their day. Listen to what I said there, okay? A child can be included in the school community the entire time, even when they are receiving direct instruction, because it's about everybody being part of the community. So yeah, so what if the child goes over to, Miss Smith's class to get specialized reading instruction? Or maybe they receive most of their academics in a special education room with a special education teacher. There's still opportunities throughout the entire day that should not have to wait till week 2, week 3, week 4 of school. Those opportunities in the library, at recess, at lunch, in the hallway with the school secretary. All of those opportunities should be happening, thought of before that first day of school. And if you've already started, if you hadn't had this conversation, we need to start that immediately. I want to encourage you that if you're like, this is a problem and I need to know as a special education teacher, how do I get this written into an IEP from my standpoint? Or as a parent, how do I get this written into an IEP? As an admin, how do I start changing the culture in my school to start making this happen? As a general education teacher, if you're like, IEPs are just like too much in my brain because nobody taught it to me, I want to encourage you to come join me at the next Master IEP Coach mentorship session. It's starting soon. I'll put the link above or below wherever you're watching this. It's masteriepcoach.com/mentorship. This is where I'm going to give you all of my IEP guidebooks, checklists, IEP development wheel. I'm going to teach you how to do an IEP meeting makeover, teach you how to resolve conflict, teach you how to do things that I've been doing for almost 30 years to resolve conflict and get things done like inclusion from day one. I want to encourage you to come join us, come get surrounded by like-minded parents, teachers, admins, and therapists who are doing exactly what you want to do in your situation, in your role at the IEP table. I'm sure you guys can tell I get a little on fire about this because when should it start? It should start now. Inclusion should start now. And inclusion looks different for every child. Inclusion does not mean always just going to a general education room. Inclusion means a child being included on the school campus in the school community for the entire day. It includes a general education teacher being prepared and supported, having the training and tools that she needs. It includes a special education teacher, not, kind of waiting and then asking, can my child come join your class, please? And why do I say it like that? Because I was that teacher 20 some years ago where I had to go knock on doors and ask, could my students please come to the morning meeting with your class? The things that are happening that were happening, back in the 80s. And yes, I mean the 80s, like I watched my mom navigate all of this for my brother who has Down syndrome. I navigated it in the late 90s as a teacher, and I've been helping parents, teachers, and admin therapists navigate this for the last 20 some years. Enough has not changed, but you can be part of that change. I hope to see you inside of the next Master IEP Coach Mentorship. Start this conversation with your team. Start the conversation. How is this going to look? What needs to get done? Who needs supports? How are we going to make this happen? Because it is not okay for a child to feel like they have to wait until people are ready for them. It's a school community. It's a classroom community, and they need to be welcomed from day one. I'll see you guys next time.